Chapter 2. Day. More aches, more pains. Someone had left me a new cloak, a brown one, which I decided was a good thing, especially if I put on more weight and Ganelon recalled my colors. I did not shave my beard because he had known me in a slightly less hairy condition. I took pains to disguise my voice whenever he was about. I hid Grey Swandeer beneath my bed. For all the following week I drove myself ruthlessly. I worked and sweated and strove until the aches subsided and my muscles grew firm once more. I think I put on 15 pounds that week. Slowly, very slowly, I began feeling like my old self. The country was called Lorraine, and so was she. If I happened to be in the mood to hand you a line, I would tell you we met in a meadow behind the castle, she gathering flowers and me walking there for exercise and fresh air. Crap. I guess a polite term would be to say camp follower. I met her at the end of a hard day's work, spent mainly with the saber and the mace. She was standing off on the sidelines waiting for her date when I first caught sight of her. She smiled and I smiled back, nodded, winked, and passed her by. The next day I saw her again, and I said hello as I passed her. That's all. Well, I kept running into her. By the end of my second week, when my aches were gone and I was over 180 pounds and feeling that way again, I arranged to be with her one evening. By then, I was aware of her status, and it was fine, so far as I was concerned. But we did not do the usual thing that night, no. Instead, we talked, and then something else happened. Her hair was rust-colored with a few strands of gray in it. I guess she was under 30, though. Eyes very blue. Slightly pointed chin. Clean, even teeth inside a mouth that smiled at me a lot. Her voice was somewhat nasal, her hair too long, her makeup laid on too heavily over too much tiredness, her complexion too freckled, her choice in clothing too bright and tight. But I liked her. I did not think I'd actually feel that way when I asked her out that night because, as I said, liking her was not the thing I had in mind. There was no place to go but my chamber, so we had gone there. I had become a captain, and I took advantage of my rank by having dinner brought to us, and an extra bottle of wine. "The men are afraid of you," she said. "They say you never grow tired." "I do," I said. "Believe me." "Of course," she said, shaking her too long locks and smiling. "Don't we all?" "I dare say," I replied. "How old are you?" "How old are you?" "A gentleman would not ask that question." "Neither would a lady." "When you first came here, they thought you were over 50. "And?" "And now they have no idea. 45? 40? "No," I said. "I didn't think so, but your beard fooled everyone." "Beards often do that." "You look better every day. Bigger." "Thanks. I feel better than I did when I arrived." "Sir Corey of Cabra," she said. "Where's Cabra?" "What's Cabra?" "Will you take me there with you, if I ask you nicely?" "I'd tell you so, but I'd be lying," I said. "I know, but it would be nice to hear." "Okay, I'll take you there with me. It's a lousy place." "Are you really as good as the men say?" "I'm afraid not. Are you?" "Not really. Do you want to go to bed now?" "No, I'd rather talk. Have a glass of wine." "Thank you. Your health." "Yours." "Why is it you're such a good swordsman?"
"Aptitude and good teachers."
"And you carried lance all that distance and slew those beasts."
"Well, stories grow with telling."
"But I have watched you. You are better than the others. That is why Ganelon made you whatever deal he did. He knows a good thing when he sees it. I've had many friends who are swordsmen, and I've watched them at practice. You could cut them to pieces. The men say you are a good teacher. They like you, even if you do scare them."
"Why do I frighten them? Because I am strong? There are many strong men in the world. Because I can stand up and swing a blade for a long while?"
"They think there is something supernatural involved."
I laughed. No, I'm just the second best swordsman around. Pardon me, maybe the third, but I try harder.
Who's better?
Eric of Amber, possibly.
Who is he?
A supernatural creature.
He's the best?
No.
Who is?
Benedict of Amber.
Is he one too?
If he's still alive, he is.
Strange, that's what you are, she said. And why? Tell me. Are you a supernatural creature?
Let's have another glass of wine.
It'll go to my head.
Good. I poured them.
We're all going to die, she said.
Eventually.
I mean here, soon, fighting this thing.
Why do you say that?
It's too strong.
Then why stick around?
I've no place else to go. That's why I ask you about Cabra.
And why you came here tonight?
No, I came here to see what you were like.
I'm an athlete who's breaking training. Were you born around here?
Yes, in the wood.
Why'd you pick up with these guys?
Why not? It's better than getting pig shit on my heels every day.
Never have a man of your own? Steady, I mean?
Yes, he's dead. He's the one who found the fairy ring.
I'm sorry.
I'm not. He used to get drunk whenever he could borrow or steal enough to afford it, then come home and beat me. I was glad when I met Ganelon.
So you think that the thing is too strong, that we're going to lose to it?
Yes.
Well, you may be right, but I think you're wrong. She shrugged.
You'll be fighting with us?
I'm afraid so.
Nobody knew for sure, or would say if they did. That might prove interesting. I'd like to see you fight with the Goat Man.
Why?
Because he seems to be their leader. If you killed him, we'd have more of a chance. You might be able to do it.
I have to, I said.
Special reason?
Yes.
A private one?
Yes.
Good luck.
Thanks. She finished her wine, so I poured her another.
I know he is a supernatural creature, she said.
Let's get off the subject.
All right, but will you do me a thing?
Name it.
Put on armor tomorrow, pick up a lance, and get a hold of a horse, and then trounce that big cavalry officer, Harold.
Why?
He beat me last week, just like Jarl used to. Can you do it?
Yes.
Will you?
Why not? Consider him trounced. She came over and leaned against me.
I love you, she said.
Crap.
All right, how about I like you?
Good enough. And then a chill and a numbing wind blew along my spine. I stiffened and resisted what was to come by blanking my mind completely. Someone was looking for me. It was someone of the House of Amber, doubtless, and using my trump or something very like it. There was no mistaking the sensation. If it was Eric, then he had more guts than I gave him credit for, since I had almost napalmed his brain the last time we had been in contact. It could not be random, unless he was out of prison, which I doubted. If it was Julian or Kane, they could go to hell. Blaze was probably dead, possibly Benedict too. That left Gerard, Brand, and our sisters. Of these, only Gerard might mean me well. So I resisted discovery successfully. It took me perhaps 5 minutes, and when it was finished I was shaking and sweating, and Lorraine was staring at me strangely.
What happened? She asked. You aren't drunk yet, and neither am I.
Oh, just a spell I sometimes get, I said. It's a disease I picked up in the islands.
I saw a face, she said. Perhaps it was on the floor. Maybe it was in my head. It was an old man. The collar of his garment was green, and he looked a lot like you, except that his beard was gray.
I slapped her then. You're lying.
You couldn't have. I'm just telling you what I saw. Don't hit me. I don't know what it meant. Who is he?
I think it was my father. God, it's strange.
What happened?
She repeated. A spell, I said. I sometimes get them. And people think they see my father on the castle wall or floor. Don't worry about it. It's not contagious.
Crap, she said. You're lying to me.
I know, but please forget the whole thing.
Why should I?
Because you like me, I told her, remember? And because I'm going to trounce Harold for you tomorrow. That's true, she said, and I started shaking again, and she fetched a blanket from the bed and put it around my shoulders. She handed me my wine, and I drank it. She sat beside me and rested her head on my shoulder, so I put my arm around her. A devil wind began to scream, and I heard the rapid rattle of the rainfall that came with it. For a second, it seemed that something beat against the shutters. Lorraine whimpered slightly. "I do not like what is happening tonight," she said. "Neither do I. Go bar the door. It's only bolted right now." As she did this, I moved our seat so that it faced my single window. I fetched Grey Swan Deer out from beneath the bed and unsheathed it. Then I extinguished every light in the room, save for a single candle on the table to my right. I reseated myself, my blade across my knees. "What are we doing?" Lorraine asked as she came and sat down to my left. "Waiting," I said. "For what?" "I'm not positive, but this is certainly the night for it." She shuddered and drew near. You know, perhaps you'd better leave," I said. "I know," she said, "but I'm afraid to go out." "You'll be able to protect me if I stay here, won't you?" I shook my head. "I don't even know if I'll be able to protect myself." She touched Grey Swan Deer. "What a beautiful blade! I've never seen one like it." "There isn't another," I said, and each time that I shifted a little, the light fell differently upon it, so that one moment it seemed filmed over with an unhuman blood of an orange tint, and in the next it lay there cold and white as snow over a woman's breast, quivering in my hand each time a little chill took me. I wondered how it was that Lorraine had seen something I had not during the attempted contact. She could not simply have imagined anything that close to home. "There is something strange about you," I said. She was silent for 4 or 5 flickerings of the candle, and then said, "I have a touch of the second sight. My mother had more of it. People say my grandmother was a sorceress. I don't know any of that business, though. Well, not much of it. I haven't done it in years. I always wind up losing more than I gain." Then she was silent again, and I asked her, "What do you mean?" "I used a spell to get my first man," she said, "and look what he turned out to be. If I hadn't, I would have been a lot better off. I wanted a pretty daughter, and I made that happen." She stopped abruptly, and I realized she was crying. "What's the matter? I don't understand." "I thought you knew," she said. "No, I'm afraid not." "She was the little girl in the fairy circle. I thought you knew." "I'm sorry." "I wish I didn't have the touch. I never use it anymore. But it won't let me alone. It still brings me dreams and signs, and there are never over things I can do anything about. I wish it would go away and devil somebody else." "That's the one thing it will not do, Lorraine. I'm afraid you are stuck with it." "How do you know?" "I've known people like you in the past. That's all." "You've a touch of it yourself, haven't you?" "Yes." "Then you feel like that there is something out there now, don't you?" "Yes." "So do I. Do you know what it is doing?" "It's looking for me." "Yes, I feel that too. Why?" "Perhaps to test my strength. It knows that I am here. If I'm a new ally to come to Ganelon, it must wonder what I represent, who I am." "Is it the Horned One himself?" "I don't know. I think not, though." "Why not?" "If I am really he who would destroy it, it would be foolish to seek me out here in the keep of its enemy when I am surrounded by strength. I would say one of its minions is looking for me. Perhaps, somehow, that is what my father's ghost... I do not know. If its servant finds me and names me, it will know what preparations to make. If it finds me and destroys me, it will have solved the problem. If I destroy the servant, it will know that much more about my strength. Whichever way it works out, the Horned One will be something ahead. So why should it risk its own pronged dome at this stage in the game?" We waited there in the shadow-clad chamber as the taper burned away the minutes. She asked me, "What did you mean when you said, 'if it finds you and names you'? Names you what?" "The one who almost did not come here," I said. "You think that it might know you from somewhere, somehow?" she asked. I think it might, I said. She drew away from me then. Do not be afraid, I said. I won't hurt you. I am afraid, and you will hurt me, she said. I know it. But I want you. Why do I want you? I don't know, I said. There is something out there now, she said, sounding slightly hysterical. It's very near. It's very near. Listen, listen. Shut up, I said, as a cold, prickly feeling came to rest on the back of my neck and coiled about my throat. Get over on the far side of the room, behind the bed. I'm afraid of the dark, she said. Do it or I'll have to knock you out and carry you. You'll be in my way here. I could hear a heavy flapping above the storm, and there came a scratching on the stone of the wall as she moved to obey me. Then I was looking into two hot red eyes, which were looking back into my own. I dropped mine quickly. The thing stood there on the ledge outside of the window and regarded me. It was well over 6 feet in height, with great branches of antlers growing out of its forehead. Nude, its flesh was a uniform ash-gray color. It appeared to be sexless, and had gray, leathery wings extending far out behind it and joining with the night. It held a short, heavy sword of dark metal in its right hand, and there were runes carved all along the blade. With its left hand it clutched at the lattice. Enter at your peril, I said loudly, and I raised the point of Grey Swandeer to indicate its breast. It chuckled. It just stood there and chuckled and giggled at me. It tried to meet my eyes once more, but I would not let it. If it looked into my eyes for long, it would know me, as the Hellcat had known me. When it spoke, it sounded like a bassoon blowing words. You are not the one, it said, for you are smaller and older. And yet, that blade, it could be his. Who are you? Who are you? I asked. Strigaldwir is my name. Conjure with it, and I'll eat your heart and liver. Conjure with it? I can't even pronounce it, I said, and my cirrhosis would give you indigestion. Go away. Who are you? It repeated. Miss Ligame Gradil Stragaldwir, I said, and it jumped as if given a hot foot. You seek to drive me forth with such a simple spell? It asked when it settled again. I am not one of the lesser ones. It seemed to make you a bit uncomfortable. Who are you? It said again. None of your business, Charlie. Ladybird, ladybird, fly away home. 4 times must I ask you, and 4 times be refused before I may enter and slay you. Who are you? No, I said, standing. Come on in and burn. Then it tore away the lattice work, and the wind that accompanied it into the chamber extinguished the candle. I lunged forward, and there were sparks between us when Grey Swandeer met the dark rune sword. We clashed, then I sprang back. My eyes had adjusted to the half-dark, so the loss of the light did not blind me. The creature saw well enough also. It was stronger than a man, but then so am I. We circled the room, an icy wind moved about us, and when we passed the window again, cold droplets lashed my face. The first time that I cut the creature, a long slash across the breast, it remained silent, though tiny flames danced around the edges of the wound. The second time that I cut it, high upon the arm, it cried out, cursing me. Tonight I will suck the marrow from your bones, it said. I will dry them and work them most cunningly into instruments of music. Whenever I play upon them, your spirits will writhe in bodiless agony. You burn prettily, I said. It slowed for a fraction of a second, and my opportunity was there. I beat that dark blade aside, and my lunge was perfect. The center of its breast was my target, and I ran it through. It howled then, but did not fall. Grey Swandeer was torn from my grasp, and flames blossomed about the wound. I stood there, wearing them. It stood there, wearing them, sorry. It advanced a step toward me, and I picked up a small chair and held it between us. I do not keep my heart where men do, it said. Then it lunged, but I blocked the blow with the chair and caught it in the right eye with one of the legs. I threw the chair to the side then, and stepping forward, seized its right wrist and turned it over. I struck the elbow with the edge of my hand, as hard as I could. There came a sharp crack, and the rune sword clattered to the floor.
Then its left hand struck my head, and I fell. It leaped for the blade, and I seized its ankle and jerked. It sprawled, and I threw myself atop it and found its throat. I turned my head into the hollow of my left shoulder, chin against my breast, as it clawed for my face with its left hand. As my death grip tightened, its eyes sought mine, and this time I did not avoid them. There came a tiny shock at the base of my brain as we both knew that he knew. As we both knew that we knew. Sorry. "You," it managed to gasp, before I twisted my hands hard and the life went out of those red eyes. I stood, put my foot upon its carcass, and withdrew Grey Swandeer. The thing burst into flames when my blade came free, and kept burning until there was nothing remaining but a charred spot upon the floor. Then Lorraine came over, and I put my arm about her, and she asked me to take her back to her quarters and to bed. So I did. But we didn't do anything but lie there together until she cried herself to sleep. And that is how I met Lorraine. Lance and Ganelon and I sat atop our mounts on a high hill, the late morning sun hitting us in the back, and we looked down into the place. Its appearance confirmed things for me. It was akin to that twisted wood that filled the valley to the south of Amber. "Oh, my father, what have I wrought?" I said within my heart. But there was no answer other than the dark circle that lay beneath me and spread for as far as the eye could see. Through the bars of my visor I looked down upon it, charred-seeming, desolate, and smelling of decay. I lived inside my visor these days. The men looked upon it as an affectation, but my rank gave me the right to be eccentric. I'd worn it for over 2 weeks since my battle with Strigaldwyr. I put it on the following morning before I trounced Harold to keep my promise to Lorraine, and I decided that as my girth increased, I'd better keep my face concealed. I weighed perhaps 14 stone now, and felt like my old self again. If I could help clean up this mess in the land called Lorraine, I knew that I would have a chance to at least try what I most wanted, and perhaps succeed. "So that's it," I said. "I don't see any troops mustering." "I believe we will have to ride north," said Lance, "and we will doubtless only see them after dark." "How far north?" 3 or 4 leagues. They move about a bit." We had ridden for 2 days to reach the circle. We had met a patrol earlier that morning and learned that the troops inside the thing continued to muster every night. They went through various drills and then were gone, to some place deeper inside, with the coming of morning. A perpetual thunderhead, I learned, rode above the circle, though the storm never broke. "Shall we breakfast here and then ride north?" I asked.
"Why not?" said Ganelon. "I'm starved and we've time."
So we dismounted and ate dried meat and drank from our canteens.
"I still do not understand that note,"
said Ganelon after belching, patting his stomach and lighting his pipe.
"Will he stand beside us in the final battle, or will he not? Where is he if he intends to help? The day of conflict draws nearer and nearer."
"Forget him," I said. "It was probably a joke."
"I can't, damn it," he said. "There is something passing strange about the whole business."
"What is it?" asked Lance, and for the first time I realized that Ganelon had not told him.
"My old liege, Lord Corwin, sends an odd message by carrier bird, saying that he is coming. I had thought him dead, but he sent this message," Ganelon told him. "I still do not know what to make of it."
"Corwin?" said Lance, and I held my breath. "Corwin of Amber?"
"Yes, Amber and Avalon."
"Forget his message."
"Why?"
"He is a man without honor, and his promise means nothing."
"You know him?"
"Oh, I know of him. Long ago he ruled in this land. Do you not recall the stories of the demon lordling? They are the same. That was Corwin in days before my days. The best thing he did was abdicate and flee when the resistance grew too strong against him." That was not true. Or was it? Amber casts an infinity of shadows, and my Avalon had cast many of its own because of my presence there. I might be known on many earths that I had never trod, for shadows of myself had walked them, mimicking imperfectly my deeds and my thoughts.
No, said Ganelon. I never paid heed to the old stories. I wonder if it could have been the same man ruling here. That is interesting.
Very, I agreed, to keep my hand in things. But if he ruled so long ago, surely he must be dead or decrepit by now. He was a sorcerer, said Lance.
The one I knew certainly was, said Ganelon, for he banished me from a land neither art nor artifice can discover now.
You never spoke of this before, said Lance. How did it occur?
None of your business,
said Ganelon, and Lance was silent once again. I held out my own pipe. I'd obtained one 2 days earlier, and Lance did the same. It was a clay job and drew hot and hard. We lit up, and the three of us sat there, smoking.
Well, he did the smart thing, said Ganelon. Let's forget it now.
We did not, of course, but we stayed away from the subject after that. If it had not been for the dark thing behind us, it would have been quite pleasant just sitting there, relaxing. Suddenly, I felt close to the two of them. I wanted to say something, but I could not think of what. Ganelon solved that by bringing up current business once more.
So you want to hit them before they hit us, he said.
That's right, I replied. Take the fight to their home territory.
The trouble is that it is their home territory, he said. They know it better than we do now. And who knows what powers they might be able to call on there.
Kill the horned one and they will crumble, I said.
Perhaps, and perhaps not. Maybe you could do it, said Ganelon. Unless I got lucky, though, I don't know whether I could. He's too mean to die easily. While I think I'll still as good a man as I was some years ago.
That's a typo.
I may be fooling myself. Perhaps I've grown soft. I never wanted this damn stay-at-home job.
I know, I said. I know, said Lance.
Lance, said Ganelon, should we do as our friend here says? Should we attack?
He could have shrugged and equivocated, but he did not.
Yes, he said. They almost had us last time. It was very close the night King Uther died. If we do not attack them now, I feel they may defeat us next time. Oh, it would not be easy, and we would hurt them badly, but I think they could do it. Let us see what we can see now. Then make our plans for an attack.
All right, said Ganelon. I'm sick of waiting too. Tell me that again after we return, and I'll go along with it.
So we did that thing. We rode up north that afternoon, and we hid ourselves in the hills and looked down upon the circle. Within it they worshipped, after their fashion, and they drilled. I estimated about 4,000 troops. We had about 2,500. They also had weird, flying, hopping, crawling things that made noises in the night. We had stout hearts. Yeah. All that I needed was a few minutes alone with their leader, and it would be decided one way or another. The whole thing. I could not tell my companions that, but it was true. You see, I was the party responsible for the whole thing down there. I had done it, and it was up to me to undo it if I could. And I was afraid that I could not. In a fit of passion, compounded of rage, horror, and pain, I had unleashed this thing, and it was reflected somewhere in every earth in existence. Such is the blood curse of a Prince of Amber. We watched them all that night, the wardens of the circle, and in the morning we departed. The verdict was, attack! So we rode all the way back, and nothing followed us. When we reached the keep of Ganelon, we fell to planning. Our troops were ready, over-ready, perhaps, and we decided to strike within a fortnight. As I lay with Lorraine, I told her these things, for I felt she should know. I possessed the power to spirit her away into shadow that very night, if she would agree, but she did not. "I'll stay with you," she said. "Okay." I did not tell her that I felt everything lay within my hands, but I have a feeling she knew that, and for some reason she trusted me. I would not have, but that was her affair. "You know how things might be," I said.
I know, she said, and I knew that she knew, and that was it. We turned our attention to other subjects, and later we slept. She'd had a dream. In the morning, she said to me, I had a dream. What about? I asked. The coming battle, she told me. I see you and the horned one locked in combat.
Who wins?
I don't know, but as you slept, I did a thing that might help you.
I wish you would not, I said. I can take care of myself.
Then I dreamed of my own death, and this time...
Let me take you away to a place I know.
No, my place is here, she told me.
I don't pretend to own you, I said, but I can save you from whatever you've dreamed. That much lies within my power, believe me.
I do believe you, but I will not go.
You're a damned fool.
Let me stay.
As you wish. Listen, I'll even send you to Cabra.
No.
You're a damned fool.
I know. I love you.
And a stupid one. The word is like, remember?
You'll do it, she said.
Go to hell, I said. Then she wept, softly, until I comforted her once again. That was Lorraine. Chapter 3. I thought back one morning upon all that had gone before. I thought of my brothers and sisters as though they were playing cards, which I knew was wrong. I thought back to the rest home where I had awakened, back to the battle for Amber, back to my walking the pattern in Rebma, and back to that time with Moira, who just might be Eric's by now. I thought of Blaze and of Random, Deirdre, Cain, Gerard, and Eric that morning. It was the morning of the battle, of course, and we were camped in the hills near the circle. We'd been attacked several times along the way, but they had been brief guerrilla affairs. We dispatched our assailants and continued. When we reached the area we decided upon, we made our camp, posted guards, and retired. We slept undisturbed. I awoke wondering whether my brothers and sisters thought of me as I thought of them. It was a very sad thought. In the privacy of a small grove, my helmet filled with soapy water, I shaved my beard. Then I dressed, slowly, in my private and tattered colors. I was as hard as stone, dark as soil, and mean as hell once more. Today would be the day. I donned my visor, put on chainmail, buckled my belt, and hung Grey Swan Deer at my side. Then I fastened my cloak at my neck with a silver rose, and was discovered by a messenger who had been looking for me to tell me that things were about ready. I kissed Lorraine, who had insisted on coming along. Then I mounted my horse, a roan named Star, and rode off toward the front. There I met with Ganelon and with Lance. They said, "We are ready." I called for my officers and briefed them. They saluted, turned, and rode away. "Soon," said Lance, lighting his pipe. "How's your arm?"
"Fine now," he replied, "after that workout you gave it yesterday. Perfect."
I opened my visor and lit my own pipe.
"You've shaved your beard," said Lance. "I cannot picture you without it."
"Well, the helm fits better this way," I said.
"Good fortune to us all," said Ganelon. "I know no gods, but if any care to be with us, I welcome them."
"There is but one God," said Lance, "and I pray that he be with us."
"Amen," said Ganelon, lighting his pipe, "for today."
"It will be ours," said Lance. "Yes," said I, as the sun stirred the east and the birds of morning the air. "It has that feel to it." We emptied our pipes when we had finished and tucked them away at our belts. Then we secured ourselves with final tightenings and claspings of our armor, and Ganelon said,
"Let us be about it."
My officers reported back to me. My sections were ready. We filed down the hillside, and we assembled outside the circle. Nothing stirred within it, and no troops were visible.
"I wonder about Corwin,"
Ganelon said to me. "He is with us," I told him, and he looked at me strangely, seemed to notice the rose for the first time, and then nodded brusquely.
"Lance," he said when we had assembled, "give the order."
And Lance drew his blade. and he cried, "Charge!" which echoed about us. We were half a mile inside the circle before anything happened. There were 500 of us in the lead, all mounted. A dark cavalry appeared, and we met them. After 5 minutes, they broke, and we rode on. Then we heard the thunder. There was lightning, and the rain began to fall. The thunderhead had finally broken. A thin line of foot soldiers, pikemen mainly, barred our way, waiting stoically. Maybe we all smelled the trap, but we bore down upon them. Then the cavalry hit our flanks. We wheeled, and the fighting began in earnest. It was perhaps 20 minutes later. We held out, waiting for the main body to arrive. Then the 200 or so of us rode on. Men. It was men that we slew, that slew us. Gray-faced, dour-countenanced men. I wanted more, one more. Theirs must have been a semi-metaphysical problem in logistics. How much could be diverted through this gateway? I was not sure. Soon. We topped a rise, and far ahead and below us lay a dark citadel. I raised my blade. As we descended, they attacked. They hissed and they croaked and they flapped. They meant to me that he was running low on people. Grey Swandeer became a flame in my hand, a thunderbolt, a portable electric chair. I slew them as fast as they approached, and they burned as they died. To my right, I saw Lance draw a similar line of chaos, and he was muttering beneath his breath. Prayers for the dead, no doubt. To my left, Ganelon laid about him, and a wake of fires followed behind his horse's trail. Through the flashing lightning, the citadel loomed larger. 100 or so of us stormed ahead, and the abominations fell by the wayside. When we charged the gate, we were faced by an infantry of men and beasts. We charged. They outnumbered us, but we had little choice. Perhaps we had preceded our own infantry by too much, but I thought not. Time, as I saw it, was all important now. "I've got to get through," I cried. "He's inside."
"He's mine,"
said Lance.
"You're both welcome to him,"
said Ganelon, laying about him.
"Cross when you can. I'm with you."
We slew and we slew and we slew, and then the tide turned in their favor. They pressed us, all the ugly things that were more or less than human, mixed in with human troops. We were drawn up into a tight knot, defending ourselves on all sides, when our bedraggled infantry arrived and began hacking. We pressed for the gate once more and made it this time, all 40 or 50 of us. We won through, and then there were troops in the courtyard to be slain. The dozen or so of us who made it to the foot of the dark tower were faced by a final guard contingent.
"Go it!"
cried Ganelon, as we leaped from our horses and waded into them. "Go it!" cried Lance, and I guess they both meant me, or each other. I took it to mean me, and I broke away from the fray and raced up the stairs. He would be there, in the highest tower, I knew, and I would have to face him, and face him down. I did not know whether I could, but I had to try, because I was the only one who knew where he really came from, and I was the one who put him there. I came to a heavy wooden door at the top of the stairs. I tried it, but it was secured from the other side, so I kicked it as hard as I could.
"What was it?"
asked Ganelon, ignoring our departure.
"What was the thing in the tower?"
"Mine," I said. Oh, wait, hold on. I think I skipped a page there. I kicked it as hard as I could. Yep, this page is stuck. Sorry. It fell inward with a crash. I saw him there by the window, a man-formed body dressed in light armor, goat head upon those massive shoulders. I crossed the threshold and stopped. He had turned to stare at the door as it fallen. Let me try that again. He had turned to stare as the door had fallen, and now he sought my eyes through steel. "Mortal man, you have come too far," he said. "Or are you mortal man?" And there was a blade in his hand. "Ask Strigaldwyr," I said. "You are the one who slew him," he stated. "Did he name you?" "Maybe." There were footsteps on the stairs behind me. I stepped to the left of the doorway. Ganelon burst into the chamber, and I called, "Halt!" And he did. He turned to me.
This is the thing, he said. What is it?
"My sin against the thing I loved," I said. "Stay away from it. It's mine."
You're welcome to it.
He stood stock still.
"Did you really mean that?"
asked the creature. "Find out," I said, and leaped forward. But it did not fence with me. Instead, it did what any mortal fencer would consider foolish. It hurled its blade at me, point forward like a thunderbolt, and the sound of its passage came like a clap of thunder. The elements outside the tower echoed it, a deafening response. With Grace Wandir, I parried that blade as though it were an ordinary thrust. It embedded itself into the floor and burst into flames. Without, the lightning responded. For an instant, the light was as blinding as a magnesium flare, and in that moment the creature was upon me. It pinned my arms to my sides, and its horns struck against my visor. Once, twice, and then I threw my strength against those arms, and the grip began to weaken. I dropped Gwayswandir, and with a final heave broke the hold it had upon me. In that moment, however, our eyes met. Then we both struck, and we both reeled back.
"Lord of Amber," it said then, "why do you strive with me? It was you who gave us this passage. This way."
"I regret a rash act and seek to undo it."
"Too late, and this is a strange place to begin."
It struck again, so quickly that it got through my guard. I was slammed back against the wall. Its speed was deadly. And then it raised its hand and made a sign, and I had a vision of the courts of chaos come upon me, a vision that made my hackles rise, made a chill wind blow across my soul, to know what I had done.
"You see," it was saying, "you gave us this gateway. Help us now, and we will restore to you that which is yours."
For a moment I was swayed. It was possible that it could do just what it had offered, if I would help. But it would be a threat forever after. Allies briefly, we would be at each other's throats after we got what we wanted, and those dark forces would be much stronger by then. Still, if I held this city...
"Do we have a bargain?"
came the sharp, near bleat of a question. I thought upon the shadows and of the places beyond shadow. Slowly, I reached up and unbuckled my helm. Then I hurled it just as the creature seemed to relax. I think Ganelon was moving forward by then. I leaped across the chamber and drove it back against the wall. "No!" I cried. Its man-like hands found my throat at about the same instant mine wrapped about its own. I squeezed with all my strength and twisted. I guess it did the same. I heard something snap like a dry stick, and I wondered whose neck had broken. Mine sure hurt. I opened my eyes, and there was the sky. I was lying on my back on a blanket on the ground.
"Well, I'm afraid he's going to live,"
said Ganelon, and I turned my head slowly in the direction of his voice. He was seated on the edge of the blanket, sword across his knees. Lorraine was with him. "How goes it?" I said.
"We've won," he told me. "You've kept your promise. When you killed that thing, it was all over. The men fell senseless, and the creatures burned."
"Good."
"I've been sitting here wondering why I no longer hate you."
"Have you reached any conclusions?"
No, not really. Maybe it's because we're a lot alike. I don't know."
I smiled at Lorraine. "I'm glad you're very poor when it comes to prophecy. The battle is over and you're still alive." "The death has already begun," she said, not returning my smile. "What do you mean?" "They still tell stories of how Lord Corwin had my grandfather executed, drawn and quartered publicly for leading one of the early uprisings against him." "That wasn't me," I said. "It was one of my shadows." But she shook her head and said, "Corwin of Amber, I am what I am." And she rose and left me then.
"What was it?" asked Ganelon, ignoring her departure. "What was the thing in the tower?"
"Mine," I said. "One of those things which was released when I laid my curse upon Amber. I opened the way, then, for that which lies beyond shadow to enter the real world. The paths of least resistance are followed in these things. through the shadows to amber. Here the path was the circle. Elsewhere it might be some different thing. I have closed their way through this place now, and you may rest easy here.
That is why you came here?
No, I said, not really. I was but passing on the road to Avalon when I came upon Lance. I could not let him lie there, after I took him to you, I became involved in this piece of my handiwork.
Avalon? Then you lied when you said it was destroyed.
I shook my head. Not so. Our Avalon fell, but in shadow I may find its like once more.
Take me with you.
Are you mad?
No, I would look once again on the land of my birth, no matter what the peril.
I do not go to dwell there, I said, but to arm for battle. In Avalon there is a bright pink powder that the jewelers use. I ignited a sample of it one time in amber. I go there only to obtain it to build guns that I may lay siege to amber and gain the throne that is mine.
And what of those things beyond shadow that you spoke of?
Well, I'll deal with them afterwards. Should I lose this time, then they are Eric's problem.
You said that he had blinded you and cast you in the dungeons.
That is true. I grew new eyes, and I escaped.
You are a demon.
This has often been said, and I no longer deny it.
You will take me with you?
If you really wish to come, it will differ from the Avalon you knew, however.
To Amber.
You are mad.
No, long have I wished to look upon the fabled city. After I have seen Avalon once again, I will turn my hand to something new. Was I not a good general?
Yes.
Then you will teach me of these things you call guns, and I will help you in the greatest battle. I've not too many good years remaining before me, I know, so take me with you.
Your bones may bleach at the foot of Colvir beside my own.
What battle is certain? I will chance it.
As you would, you may come.
Thank you, Lord.
We camped there that night, rode back to the keep in the morning. Then I sought after Lorraine. I learned that she had run off with one of her former lovers, an officer named Melkin. Although she had been upset, I resented the fact that she had not given me the opportunity to explain something of which she only knew rumors. I decided to follow them. I mounted Star, turned my stiff neck in the direction they had supposedly taken, and rode on after. In a way, I could not blame her. I had not been received back at the keep as the slayer of the Horned One might have been were he anyone else. The stories of their Corwin lingered on, and the demon tag was on all of them. The men I had worked with, fought beside, now looked at me with glances holding something more than fear. Glances only, for they quickly dropped their eyes or turned them to another thing. Perhaps they feared that I wished to stay and reign over them. They might have been relieved, all save Ganelon, when I took to the trail. Ganelon, I think, feared that I would not return for him as I had promised. This, I feel, is the reason that he offered to ride with me. But it was a thing that I had to do myself. The rain had come to mean something to me, I was surprised to discover, and found myself quite hurt by her action. I felt that she owed me a hearing before she went her way. Then, if she still chose her mortal captain, they would have my blessing. If not, I realized that I wanted to keep her with me. Fair Avalon would be postponed, for so long as it took me to resolve this ending or continuance. I rode along the trail, and the birds sang in the trees about me. The day was bright with a sky-blue, tree-green peace, for the scourge had been lifted from the land. In my heart there was something like a bit of joy that I had undone at least a small portion of the rottenness I had wrought. Evil? Hell, I've done more of it than most men. But I'd picked up a conscience, too, somewhere along the way, and I let it enjoy one of its rare moments of satisfaction. Once I held Amber, I could allow it a little more leeway, I felt. Ha! I was heading north, and the terrain was foreign to me. I followed a clearly marked trail which bore the signs of 2 riders' recent passage. I followed all that day, through dusk and into evening, dismounting periodically to inspect the way. Finally, my eyes played too many tricks on me, so I located a small glen, several hundred yards to the left of the trail, and there I camped for the night. It was the pains in my neck, doubtless, that made me dream of the Horned One and relive that battle.
"Help us now, and we will restore to you that which is yours,"
it said. I woke suddenly at that point, with a curse on my lips. When morning paled the sky, I mounted and continued on. It had been a cold night, and the day still held me in hands out of the north. The grasses sparkled with a light frost, and my cloak was damp from having been used as a bedroll. By noon, something of warmth had returned to the world, and the trail was fresher. I was gaining on them. When I found her, I leaped down from my mount and ran to where she lay, beneath a wild rose bush without flowers, the thorns of which had scratched her cheek and shoulder. Dead, she had not been so for long, for the blood was still damp upon her breast where the blade had entered, and her flesh yet warm. There were no rocks with which to build her cairn, so I cut away the sod with gray swan deer and laid her there to rest. He had removed her bracelets, her rings, and her jeweled combs, which had held all she possessed of fortune. I had to close her eyes before I covered her over with my cloak, and here my hand faltered and my own eyes grew dim. It took me a long while. I rode on, and it was not long before I overtook him, riding as though he were pursued by the devil, which he was. I spoke not a word when I unhorsed him, nor afterward, and I did not use my blade, though he drew his own. I hurled his broken body into a high oak tree, and when I looked back, it was dark with birds. I replaced her rings, her bracelets, and her combs before I closed the grave, and that was Lorraine. All that she had ever been or wanted to be had come to this, and that is the whole story of how we met and how we parted, Lorraine and I, and the land called Lorraine. And it is like unto my life, I guess, for a prince of amber is part and party to all the rottenness that is within the world. Which is why, whenever I do speak of my conscience, something else within me must answer, "Ha!" In the mirrors of the many judgments, my hands are the color of blood. I am a part of the evil that exists in the world and in shadow. I sometimes fancy myself an evil which exists to oppose other evils. I destroy Melkins when I find them, and on that great day of which prophets speak, but in which they do not truly believe, on the day when the world is completely cleansed of evil, then I, too, will go down into darkness, swallowing curses. Perhaps even sooner than that, I now judge, but whatever. Until that time, I shall not wash my hands nor let them hang useless. Turning, I rode back to the keep of Ganelon, who knew but would never understand. Whew! I don't know what's up with me tonight. I had some real twisters on my tongue there. Having some trouble keeping up. My eyes kept on trying to flicker ahead and read much faster than I was reading aloud. And so I kept on getting mixed up. So I'm sorry for that. But, gave it a go. 2 chapters, knocking out some more words. So it was another 20 pages. This time, actually, I still feel pretty good after that. I don't know why. I guess my vocal stamina is improving somewhat. But I think I'll just leave it off there. 2 chapters is, still a bit of content. How long is this video? Close to an hour. Anyways, thanks for watching. And I guess I'll talk to you guys later. Is there anything else I need to say? I don't know. Subscribe if you want, like if you want, comment if you want. I don't care. I like to see comments, but the subscribing and liking isn't really necessary. It just boosts my ego. I have a Twitter. And what else? Not much else, really. So anyways, thanks. And I'll try to record another episode soon.